Yo, what is going on, everybody? This is Brandon.
Stefan.
Welcome back to Crisis on Infinite Rants. This is a show where we deep dive into a topic that changes every single week. Happy new comic book day, everyone. Happy Whiplash Wednesday with the PCP Army Bad Batch. This is the place to be. We didn't get double Nick today. We got a Christmas miracle. We got triple Nick, because there's never enough Nicks. I think
Not
he
once,
dropped yeah.
not twice, but three
Three
times.
times. Three times for Nick. So go check them out. I think he dropped at like 11, 3 o'clock, and 5 o'clock, somewhere around there. We had Travis at 3 o'clock, TM Nerdy, chatting with John's Comics with Kids, our really good friend, John. That was awesome. John is an X-Men lover, so he knows his comic books. John also really likes Star Wars. No, he doesn't like. He's okay on Star Wars, so it's like it goes both ways. But John's awesome. Go check out that replay. They talked a lot about the Matrix too. So, and then what was the next show? Oh yeah, is this one? I forgot. There's this show, Crisis on Infinite Rants. Usually we drop this video. We don't go live as much anymore, but we're live today. So another Christmas miracle. We're just keep getting better and better. And then we have the debut of the new closing show right after this. Let's talk about a remaster with Big Herb, Stefan, and Fable. I'm really excited for today, you guys. Today we are going to be ranking our top 5 books we read in 2021. That doesn't necessarily mean like new single issues. This is like anything that we've read for the first time. So if there is a book that you had in your backlog that you really enjoyed, please let us know in the comments. We're excited to hear all about that. Stefan, as always, 2 honorable mentions. What is your first one?
I'm gonna go with my first one only because I only recently read the first issue, but it was impactful enough that I'm gonna track down the other 2. Was May's book by Jeff Lemire. Being still a newish parent, this definitely had me reflecting and in my feels based on the first issue. So it took me by surprise, and I can always appreciate a book that does that.
100%. I heard like that book was like really similar to like the style that he did in Sweet Tooth, like just like the way that everything was formatted.
Yeah.
Which that's actually one of my honorable mentions is Sweet Tooth. So that's really fitting that we have 2 Jeff Lemire books. I recently read the compendium, or I had the compendium. I just never read it until recently. I think it was over Thanksgiving break. I read it, it was a really good read. I think I binged it in like 3 days. And that was like the comic that broke Jeff Lemire into the industry. So now I have to watch the Netflix show after I watch like 5 other shows that everyone has been telling me to watch, and I have to watch like 5 movies. So you know how that goes. So I was really excited with that book. Jeff Lemire wrote and drew it, or at least he drew most of it, and I highly recommend you check it out. It's about like a fantasy world. It's like a post-apocalyptic, however you say
Apocalyptic.
I hate that word. Where you have like these animal human hybrids, and we get to know this guy named Sweet Tooth and his journey throughout all of this. What's going on, Omni Nation? What's going on, E? What's going on, Santana Golden, Brother Joe Wong in here? We had Nick in here, Phil in here, Travis in here, JT in here, Station, everybody here. If I missed you, sorry about that. What was your other honorable mention?
This was a hard one with one of my I guess my first picks for top 5, but I'm gonna go with What If Spider-Man Spider Shadow.
Spider Shadow. That was awesome.
I really enjoyed this book. I think I might have enjoyed Life Story. I think that was a little bit better, even though it came out like 2 years ago. Yeah. But just in that comparison, I felt like my next book deserved that spot because it was a little newer. Right. And then a fresher take on an older character.
Oh, 100%. I think the really cool thing about the whole What If line, it wasn't just like a one and done story. Like, oh, this happens, who cares? It was like a whole series, right? Yeah. It had, like you said, it had a lot of breathing room. The art by Pascal Ferry was really vibrant for that book.
I agree.
I really liked how the symbiotes, they almost like looked like very alive. They looked like really like almost like contagious. Like they stuck out on the page a lot, which I also really enjoyed. And I like what Zdarsky has done with the Spider-Man universe during his time in Marvel.
You know, based off of that Life Story, his Spectacular Spider Run.
Yes.
I think that I would not mind him being head writer on Amazing
He'll
Spider-Man
never do that
anytime,
though.
unfortunately.
Unfortunately, Zdarsky, it's weird because like Zdarsky and Tom Taylor have basically like come out and said we're not doing like mainstream Batman, we're not doing mainstream Spider-Man,
I
just
respect
because editorial will take away a lot of their vision.
Yeah,
Which I understand. In
absolutely.
Spectacular, no one cares what you're gonna do. You can kill off like Harry Osborn and make him a whole new person. Except that happened in Amazing, but you can do something completely different and spin it in a way, and it's like no one cares.
Right.
But of
You're
all the
right.
people that I picked off the top of my head, Harry Osborn. My other honorable mention now, 2021 for me was like my big binge year because I stopped like collecting back issues, like key issues, or I stopped like putting those. Like I was like at first I was like, oh, an issue of X-Men, like X-Men 112. I really want that book, you know, and I'd read it, I'd enjoy it, but now I was like more going back to my moderns and getting back to what I really liked about comics was just the reading. And so this year I read so many great books that I guarantee you everyone else is like, we're on from Jump. I've really been into comics for 6 years. So this is like me catching up on moderns because I've already caught up on Silver and Bronze Age.
Yeah.
And I'm still kind of rough in the 90s, but modern is really what I focused on. My other honorable mention is Secret Warriors by Jonathan Hickman. This was absolutely like one of the biggest sleeper books. So basically, if anyone's seen Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., this is what got that inspiration. And this was one of Hickman's earlier projects in Marvel, completely spun out of what Bendis was doing with the Avengers at this time. And I really enjoy getting to know a lot of these niche characters. It's almost like, what if Avengers had their own Hellions?
Yeah, they're definitely like the offshoot
Right.
Dark Squad, I guess, you know, not Hit Squad, but
Right.
they're the ragtag Avengers, yeah.
Right.
I like to it's like a debate battle sometimes, but I think like his Shield series he did, and Secret Warriors are kind of his more unique Marvel books. Like he did classic works with Fantastic Four, the Avengers, X-Men, but I think that Secret Warriors and Shield are definitely his more unique projects or takes that he's done for the Marvel universe.
Right, 100%. And I think if anyone is a Hickman fan or wants to read a Hickman book, but want to avoid a lot of the stigmas that Hickman is known for, I would definitely say Secret Warriors is that book. It's a lighter read. You're kind of familiar with a lot of these characters in the sense that we already know who Quake is, or at least a lot of us do. We were already familiar with Madam Hydra, who actually first appeared in this book, or Viper became Madam Hydra in this book.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, Phobos, he was a Ares' son.
Right.
He was a really dope character.
Right. And a lot of people who've been a fan of the MCU, I feel like, or a fan of Shield, you know what Shield is. Should be able to read this, no problem, and find a lot of things that they can relate to. The art by Stefano Caselli, and I think Stefan Segovia was on that book as well, were also some of their earlier works.
Alessandro Vitti or something like that.
Alessandro Vitti was on the book. It was like the three of them.
Artist.
Right. It was really, really good. And even the fill-in art was fantastic, I have to say.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I was really excited that I read this book. Now we're getting into our top 5. What was your 5?
My first pick, I don't want to say it's in any specific numerical order, but I just say my first pick is Beta Ray Bill, by DWJ, Daniel Warren Johnson. It was a nice little run, contained arc that kind of gave light and a nice exposure to a character that's, I want to say he's slept on, but you know, he's not really been heard of in a minute, and it was just kind of like a cool newer take on him, especially with like, you know, recent things that had happened to him in Thor and stuff like that, since this kind of picked up right after his appearance in Thor. Daniel Warren Johnson's art is
fantastic.
So yeah, that
right. I think that Beta Ray Bill book really speaks a lot about isolation, getting to know yourself, because like when you're by yourself, you're really trapped with your own thoughts, especially when you're like out to do something like building yourself up and whatnot. And that was really the whole point of that story, was how to address Beta Ray Bill and how he internalizes a lot of the problems that no one else has to live with. So I really thought that was unique. I really liked his whole concept with turning Scuttlebutt into like the whole ship.
Kind of like Phantom X and Ava. Well, I
Yes.
don't know if you, yeah. But
Yes.
I knew I really enjoyed it when I was like, you know what? I would not mind seeing another adventure between Bill, Scuttlebutt, Scourge, and Pip. Like if they were in another series as a team, I'd buy that book. I'd read it.
Right. 100%. 100%.
That's-
Ben says Beta Ray Bill, some of the best art of the year. The scene with Bill versus Scuttlebutt playing ping pong was the best. And there were so many references to Daniel Warren Johnson's like personal life, like how much he's like into like heavy metal, right?
Yeah.
Like Beta Ray Bill, and how much he's into wrestling. So if you're into both of those, I know I'm speaking to our good friend Brother Joe. That's definitely a read. Just to, like look for those little Easter egg station, Brother Joe. Love Brother Joe to death. My number 5 was a book that you forced me to read for the longest time. Yes, I blame you for half the books on these lists. Actually, for like 3 others, but we're not counting. Was The Ultimates by Mark Millar and Brian Hitch. Yo, I don't think that I've read like an Avengers themed book that really hit like this since like I've went back and read the Steve Englehart run, which that's like my personal favorite Avengers run, and you can't convince me otherwise. I haven't read Hickman's yet, so that's 2022 bound. You know,
like
go
on.
So what was really exciting about this book was really this felt like a Prime Millar, because it is Prime Millar, of course. So like back when he was able to play with characters, and the cool thing about the Ultimate Universe, we always like we just have these crazy ideas and who cares. There are a lot of great character moments, and that kind of like speak to a lot of these Avengers relationships, like Hank Pym and Janet. Their relationship has been so, I would say, like abusive, right?
Yeah.
And that has never been addressed in the Silver Age, right?
Yeah, it was
But like
kind of like
everyone just like forgot about it. Millar's over here like, who cares? You know, there's the whole. It was like a Chitauri invasion. That's really what it was. So it was like we already saw that on the big screens, but I was really excited to read this. Brian Hitch is actually one of my favorite artists, so his art in here was stunning. And
you know, they got the Chitauri from the Ultimates. Though.
Yeah, they did, and that was definitely a big inspiration. And it was just like this really cool idea. It almost felt like the opening arc to Justice League in the New 52, just because it was like a big fresh moment for the team, and it was like we can start from scratch and continue. I really, really, really loved this book, and if I know Mark Millar does not have a lot of fans or of his work anymore, thank you to Jupiter's Legacy, but this is honestly one of his better works.
Oh, absolutely.
The Ultimates from like 2000s. Yep, 100%.
I started, of course, with Spider-Man since that was the first to come out. Then the X-Men, and while I love both of those, I'd have to say probably, to be honest, that Ultimates is my favorite and resonated with me the most. Like that kind of made me realize the concept or the scale of what the Ultimate Universe was supposed to be and what it could do. You know, in terms of revamping characters for the modern age and stuff like that.
100%. And what I like really, really enjoy, or something that kind of sucked was I really wanted to pick Al Ewing's Ultimates too, and I was like, they're such great books, but I could only pick one Ultimates, and I had to go with Millar and Hitch because it felt so classic. And if anyone wants an Avengers run to get into, I would definitely recommend this.
All day.
I think
it's some of Hitch's best work, to be honest, too. Yeah. They're like I wouldn't say they're, you know, like an official pairing, like, you know, kind of how Morrison does a lot of his greatest works. Morrison does a lot of their greatest works with Quietly. But anytime you get Hitch and Millar together, they definitely put out some bangers.
I think anytime you get Hitch on a book, it's like you automatically raise the expectations on the book, just because Hitch has a very, very, very good history of being on some of the best books. Yeah. I mean, he was on Hawkman from Jump with Robert Venditti, and that has turned out to be one of the better Hawkman runs. I actually say it's better than Jeff Johns's. Wow. He was the opening artist on it.
No, I was going to say I only have the first 6 issues. I still have not read it.
Yeah, it was Hitch and Sinclair were like and I was like, that's awesome. You're not getting better. Yeah. And I don't know if Joe Prado did the inks. I don't think it was Prado, but it was somebody else. But that was a great Hawkman book, and I love Hawkman. He doesn't get a lot of love.
But yeah, The Authority, that's also another classic book that Hitch is a part of. Like he's classic.
Right, 100%. What is your number 4?
My number 4, I'm gonna go with Geiger.
Yes.
Station Fable. This to me, I was kind of Jeff Johns. I love his work. He's from Detroit Station.
There you
But
go.
he's always done superhero work while being fantastic in some of the more standout superhero work. You know, it's he's never done anything to really make. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't doubting his venture into the indie work, but you know, I just wanted to see if he could still bring the heat when it wasn't like an established character with legacy. And I feel like, you know, he set up a cool little world with Geiger, even though it's just like Fallout 3 in a comic book. But yeah, him and Gary Frank, they're one of those pairings, you know, anytime they get together, they put out seminal work, phenomenal.
What's the Doomsday Clock?
A what?
A Doomsday Clock. You know, like that thing, the thing of the thing, the Doomsday Clock.
No, what do you keep asking about? Because you keep saying what's a
Doomsday
what?
Clock?
A what?
A
What's
Doomsday
a what?
Clock.
You're not finishing the sentence. You keep saying what's what?
What is a Doomsday Clock?
The bit's going over your head.
It's going right over my head, right? No, that was actually like one of my more anticipated books this year that I was picking up single issues, just because it's like when I started picking up single issues, Jeff Johns is kind of like already ending Darkseid War, and I was like,
right.
Doomsday Clock. Like when I started reading, I said I was gonna trade wait for Doomsday Clock, and I had to trade wait for 3 years because my buddy at the time was picking it up, and every time it came out, right, he would have to go back and reread the whole series just to catch up.
That's not Jeff Johns' fault though. That's Warner Brothers DC.
Fault. That's like edit that. Yeah, that's executive.
No, I mean no, because that's when they were when he was doing in the midst of that book or just getting going. That's when they kind of threw him into the Kevin Feige role he had in Warner Brothers for like 2 years. But when Justice League tanked, he got demoted. But that was going on during the time that, so he really didn't have a lot of time because he was trying to like get like Aquaman going, Birds of Prey, stuff like that. Yeah, but that's neither here nor there.
Right. So I was really excited for this book, especially because I didn't enjoy Three Jokers, and I've really enjoyed a lot of Jeff Johnson's classic work. So
I like Three Jokers, but I don't think it's one of the more memorable. I don't think it's going to be one of the standout iconic Batman stories.
No, it'll be seminal because it's like Jeff Johns wanted to write a in continuity Batman story, and because it had like a lot of takes on different characters, it's like a origin story for Batman. I think it will be seminal, but not for the reasons why it was intended to.
Yeah, I agree.
My number 4 is actually Jason Aaron's Thor. The complete collections have been coming out throughout the course of the year, so I've been picking those up and reading them. And I've gotten to the point where I'm at the part where I started collecting it in floppies. So that was like towards the end of the Jane Foster Thor arc. So now that we're done with that, we're starting to get into the Mighty Thor. When he like becomes worthy again, we're leading into War of the Realms. That's going to be the next complete collection. So that was really cool to go back and read it. Just because I came in right when he was about to get into War of the Realms. Right. So kind of I had to like do some research, and this is like, okay, this is what's going on. John Stout really loved Layla Starr, and that's a book that everyone needs to read.
I agree.
So
I think Jason Aaron's Thor is definitely some of his more standout stellar work or memorable work during his tenure at Marvel. I really like his Wolverine stuff personally. I think it doesn't get talked about too much, but
right.
You know, and I feel bad because I'm the reason that he said that we didn't have to do all books from this year, but at the last minute I switched up and chose all books from this year. So I'm gonna recommend some Planetary, just to throw that out there. That's a book I reread almost every year. I love Planetary. If you guys haven't read that, Warren Ellis, John Cassidy, it's one of the best comic runs of all time.
Right, and I really, really like Warren Ellis, even not as a person, as a comic writer. So don't get that misconfused or anything else. But that's a book that I saw the Absolute edition of it, and I thought, oh, Stefan. I was like, this would make a great Christmas gift. And I saw the price tag with no discount, and I was like, I thought Omnis were expensive. I thought Omnis.
No, it's very expensive.
They need to reprint that. They need to reprint it because My LCS has volumes like 2 and 3, and no volume 1. I'm like,
track it down. Amazon. I'm
okay.
sure it's not too expensive.
Yeah,
eBay,
maybe.
Amazon.
I'm looking at my backlog. Do you remember that Instagram picture I posted of my backlog? I was like,
Stack on stack on stack.
well, I've read half that stack, and somehow it doubled on my end. So it was like I crunched it down to like 4 omnis, and now I'm looking at like 10 more that I've recently ordered, and I was just like, I had a goal this year, and it just didn't happen. Well, it's
like that
happening,
scene
but I'm
in
adding more for the next year. This is weird as hell, man. My
that
number
scene
3
in
is all. I'm sorry.
No, I was my
Oh yeah,
timing of my joke is off, but I was gonna say it's like that scene in Thor Ragnarok where he's like getting his beer refill from Doctor Strange. Your stack just replenishes every time.
yeah, that's what's been going on. Forever backlogged. What was your
Right.
number 3?
My number 3 was Nocterra by Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. Yes, right. No, Tony Dangle. My bad. Um, I it sounded like such a like simple concept when I heard about it that I didn't think I was gonna be too impressed by it, but it ended up becoming like one of the books that was always kind of like at the top of my reading list every month. So like once again, I can always appreciate when a book surprises me, and this did. It's a cool concept.
He's talking about the X-Men omnibus. He's talking about Uncanny. What's up, Rod? What's up, Chet?
But you got it's a cool idea. It's easily digestible. The story is very easy to understand. That never hurts, and
Right.
it's just like a cool world. That I wouldn't mind seeing delving into more like for years to come. So
Right.
Nocterra.
Well, that's like Snyder's passion project right now. Is Nocterra recently got options? He got that going. That book is basically like what happens when the sun leaves and you're surrounded in darkness, and all you have to you only have to rely on a certain amount of like electricity or like how can you create your own light. That's really like a lot of the themes in that book. I really like that book. I really do.
Well, I was gonna say it's like Mad Max meets Pitch Black, but I don't know if you've seen either one of those movies, so I don't know if you'd
I
catch
kind of
that.
compared it to like what if like Fast and Furious didn't have a sun in it, you know? I thought that was
We're on
like
the right track.
yeah, I was like, I think that's suitable enough. By the way, I'm wearing my Saga shirt today because of an awesome live stream that happened that everyone needs to go back and catch that replay for the female squad of the comic community. You had J Rails, you had Sheena, Michelle, Moonlit Comics, Nicole, and Inja. Definitely go back and check that replay. They talked all about Saga. So I'm wearing my Lion Cat shirt today just because of them, just because their stream was awesome. So go back and check that out. It's on J Rails' channel. If I can get a moderator to drop that link, you guys can definitely go check that out later today after Whiplash Wednesday is over. My number 3 is going to be Brian Michael Bendis' New Avengers. That is also an exclusive Blame Steph pick.
Great pick.
Yep. So this book was incredible. I never read Bendis's New Avengers. I read his Daredevil, I read his Moon Knight, but I never got into his New Avengers. Got like a complete collection or two in. I read House of M, but and then I read Secret Invasion before and Siege, but I never read anything that like led up to it. So I'm kind of which was his Avengers. So like I would like because like all the complete collections were out of print, it was harder for me to get it. So like a lot of it happened Marvel Unlimited, but I still have a bunch of the trades that I'm trying to fill in and stuff. Right. You thought it was ladies only last night. Oh, JT. I mean, I crashed the party, man. I put on a wig and I mean that's what we did, but I know I'm kidding. So it was really cool just seeing like how everything progressed and seeing like the stakes that took place, especially in like Secret Invasion, and then like that wasn't the big event; it was actually Siege. With the whole takeover of Norman Osborn, I've never seen a writer treat niche characters like they were a bigger deal. Like you had Luke Cage who was running around, Elektra, Echo was in there.
Yeah.
Clint Barton played a big role, Spider-Woman, and these are all like niche characters. Yes. And then you had Sentry. Can't get any nicher than that, and it's like they just all like came together to push the Marvel universe. So I thought that was excellent.
I love Sentry, but yeah, it's thanks to Bendis that Sentry is even kind of still relevant because prior to his appearance in New Avengers, he had just had that miniseries, and that was that, So it was like really Bendis that kind of put him out there and was like, "Yo, this is a great character people aren't really talking about or using." So yeah, that's definitely one of his best works. I love New Avengers, absolutely.
100%. You had all the best artists in Marvel at that time. So
Yeah.
I really, really enjoyed that. That was a big binge. That was a huge binge. That's like
It's worth it.
8 years of history, but it was really worth it. It was worth it. And it took me probably like 2 months to finish. What was your number 2?
I'm gonna go with The Many Deaths of Layla Starr. This was just a very well written book. I just read it like a week ago. I was kind of sleeping on it, backlogging forever, forever backlogged, as Eric says. But it's just it had a lot of great themes about morality and life and death and stuff like that. And the art was fantastic.
Yes.
I loved how Ram narrates the book. It's very entrancing in a way. I really gets you like in the setting of the story, and lived up to the hype. I kept hearing people talk about it,
Right.
and I'm glad that it was worth it. So many deaths.
I think they would write a great Kamala Khan or a great like Champions book. That creative team.
I can see that. I said Cowboy Bebop. I would love to see them do Cowboy
That too.
Bebop. Yeah.
That's something I know you love, but I have no idea what you're talking about. So,
That's it.
My number 2 has to be Invincible. Leading into the show, I always wanted to read Invincible since like I started reading comics, and everyone was telling me to read it. But when everyone tells you that, it doesn't necessarily make it go anywhere because like you're just telling me to read it. You're not telling me why. Like, what about this book? What should I care about? But the short answer in this book is everything. Because the world, like, if you look at what happened, it was like 147 issues. A lot of stuff happened, and it's like I think more it's happened in that book, and it's like so organically told. Like you don't feel like it's a lot until you like kind of reflect on it. It's like, wow, this is fucked up. Or it's like sounds like, oh, I'm 40 issues in, and all this shit happens. Like, oh, but you got no idea what's really happening. And because I remember telling that to Bryce when he read it, like, oh, you're on issue 40, cute. And then I'm not going to spoil it. I'm like, but you got no idea what's coming your way. And then like 20 issues later, he'd be like, was it that? I'm like, oh no, that was like a little thing compared to what I was talking about. He's like, but that was huge. So that was a book that I was really excited to read. I made all my coworkers write it or read it as well at work. So I kind of doing like God's work over there. I really liked Invincible. I really liked the show as well. One of my favorite books of all time. So it's gone on number 2. Just number 1 happens to be like top 3 favorite of all time. So it's like
we're gonna have to do another one where we do older books because I messed this up. But my number 1 for this year was Nightwing by
yay
Taylor and Redondo. That they've become like one of those pairings I was talking about earlier, like Morrison Quietly, Johns, Gary Frank, Remender, Jerome Pena. Anytime they get together, they're gonna cook up something great, you know. Nightwing, I feel, have been a little stagnant the last couple years, which is unfortunate. And I know people hear me say that my love for Tim Drake is the best Robin, which he is, but I think that's only because I think Dick serves a better purpose going on his own as Nightwing.
Okay,
he's a better Nightwing
you
than
just
he is
redeemed
Robin.
yourself a little bit.
But they definitely returned this book back to form. Taylor, I think he really gets Dick, and I don't know. I was a big fan of their Suicide Squad run, so I love that, and I think they're just doing what they did in that even better in here.
Oh, their Suicide Squad run was fantastic. I don't think I've liked a Suicide Squad book like that. Nightwing is really one of my favorites that has come out this year as well. By the way, we are going to be talking about that for Archives on Friday, so check that out for all of our thoughts. And that's actually going to be led by Michael. So Michael's really excited to lead this episode. So we're all going to be wearing our Nightwing outfits. Maybe Link will come in with like a red hood or something, just like for kicks and giggles. But it'll be fun. It'll be fun. Know. Yeah, you never know. It's fun. I love that book. And I'm so glad that Nightwing has that treatment. And then like the first arc, we're going to be talking about this more in Archives, but they brought in a classic villain from the 90s, but made it so to give that fan service while building up to someone bigger. So it was like, you knew the stakes.
Right.
So basically, who's bigger than the Kingpin, right? And then my number one is actually Ultimate Spider-Man. I read it this year. I read it digitally. I don't have it. I'm waiting for the omnibus. I was like, I'm gonna wait for the omnibus, and then the omnibus never came, and it got delayed. And I'm like, oh, just read it. And I did. I couldn't put it down. I think I finished it in like 3 days. That's 131 or 41.
Yeah, it's up there. It's
21.
Yeah.
So
No, it's like 130, 40 issues, I believe.
I remember it ended on a 1. Oh, 132. Chet is the man. Chet is the man. So Ultimate Spider-Man is a modern take on the Spider-Man mythos. It's basically like a New 52 treatment, but with Spider-Man. Goes over his origin, and it takes his growth in a more modern way. And it's like a retelling of that, and it was fantastic. I don't think I've read a better Spider-Man book in history, and it's become one of my absolute favorites of all time. I think it's like right behind Miller's Daredevil and Saga. I think those were the only 2 books that I would put above it. But Ultimate Spider-Man is right there in one of my all-time reads. So I read a lot of Bendis this year. This year. So that's my number one. Next up on today's schedule, we have Let's Talk About It Remastered with Big Herb, one collection down, and Stefan's going to be doing double duty, so we're going to check that out in about 30 minutes. I don't want to go over at all. I want to give Steph some more time to get ready for that as well. I'm going to be in the chat and be hyping everyone up. In the meantime, news that I can talk about today, Jen McKay's going to be on the show January 5th. That is not, I think it's next 2 Wednesdays. In 2 Wednesdays.
The 8th, you say?
The 5th. So that's going to be in 2 Wednesdays. That's going to be at 6 o'clock Eastern time. Okay, so that's probably going to be the lead-in for Let's Talk About It Remastered that night, which that actually just came up today. So I'm really excited to have Jed McKay on the show. He's writing Death of Doctor Strange, which has been fantastic. As a Strange Tales fan, I really like the fan service and the retcons he's bringing up there. And he's also doing Moon Knight, which is fantastic. He's been doing some Spider-Man. Jed McKay's been everywhere and putting out some really stellar work. And he knows his Marvel history. So I'm excited to talk about that with him.
For sure. He's definitely one of Marvel's hotter writers. Underappreciated almost too right now. But he's starting to get his clout.
Right. 100%. And then coming back to the channel, we actually have Rom V will be back, I think, mid-January. And then at the end of January, comic book legend Roy Thomas will be on.
Nice.
So that is January's lineup. And Wills Portacio is also coming back. So we have, that is our lineup for January for Creators Corner, and I'm excited to finally be able to talk about that. I know I've been kind of teasing Roy coming on, but that's going to be, I'm super, super excited for it. But it's still way too early to call Damian the best Robin. I think Damian down the road will become one of the better Robins. I don't know if you can really, I don't know if you
one of my personal favorites.
I think there's a lot to Damian that's like explosive, and I think once he can hone all of that,
Guy Gardner.
I can't stand you.
I'm just saying they
no,
very
they're
similar
different people.
personalities.
See, Damian still has to grow up. Guy Gardner is 52 and still a pain in the ass.
I blocked that.
I don't care. Gavin says, not in my opinion. I like all the Robins for different reasons, even though Dick will always be Nightwing in my eyes. Jason is Red Hood, which leaves Damian and Tim my 2 favorites. I think Red Hood is one of my least favorite characters in DC Universe. I just don't like.
I don't get it. I respect the fact that he stands up to Bruce Wayne and it's just like, look, bro, you're not perfect. All right.
That's also the talent that's he's like had. So a lot of like my reasoning is just based off of who's been writing him and the fact that since he's taken up the Red Hood, nothing has happened in his future that is like showed people that like we care to grow this character. It's like he's dealing with these problems, and until someone comes along that cares about this character, he's going to keep having those problems.
No, that's very, very astute observation.
Right. So it's
I definitely agree with that, because I think when he first came out, he was just supposed to be like, maybe not like a one-trick pony, but I don't think they ever had plans on keeping him long-term, like making him part of the Bat family again. That's something that just kind of evolved. But if they had someone like Taylor or someone like you say caring about the character, I think you could do great things with Red Hood.
Right, and he wouldn't be so far on like kind of like my shit list. It's basically like, let's put him in a room with 2 other depressed people and no therapist, and let's let them run around. They're not gonna do anything, and that's really what Scott Lobdell's treatment of the character to me felt like, because he was writing him for like 8 years or something, and then he just didn't get any treatment.
The second volume of what was it called? Red Hood and the Outlaws, I think, was a little bit where he had Athena and Bizarro. I like that a little bit better than the first volume.
Yeah, well, Starfire was just like I don't know, it was weird. Like he just saw Starfire as like almost like a sex icon rather than like a female.
Yeah.
I didn't care for any of the Essence work for that character.
I can see that and agree with that.
Pre-Flashpoint, Tim is the best Robin. To Red Robin, past Flashpoint, Damian eating his lunch and Tim's been dragged to and fro. I can see that. But I don't know, because James Tynion's Detective Comics is where Tim actually like really had a good arc. What's going on, Chaos and Comics? Have not seen you here in a while. Missed you, man. Hope all is well. But that is.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
To speak on the whole Tim thing post New 52, I think it's because when they first did New 52, like they tried to wasn't he not? He just started as Red Robin, right? Like that's how New 52 went. Like he just became Red Robin straight away and kind of started with Titans. Yeah, I think they did because they tried to disassociate him from the Bat family so much. They had a lot of, there are a lot of newer readers who came on seeing Damian, the other D, as the prime Robin as opposed to Tim.
I don't really think anyone's put the Bat family forward. I don't know if it's because DC didn't think these characters could sell, or it's like you just need to have Bruce Wayne in there. Yeah. But there's a lot to be said about the Bat family that in Tynion's Detective Comics was phenomenal.
Oh,
that's an omnibus that is in the reread pile. But that's what I'm looking at right now. That's underneath all the backlog. But you guys, thank you so much for tuning in today for Christ on Infinite Rants. Usually we do drop every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern time, but we did go live today for, like I said, a Christmas miracle. We have another Christmas miracle coming on later tonight. It's full of Christmas. We have Let's Talk About It remastered, like we said, with Big Herm on his channel with Fable 1 collection down and Stefan Missing Link. That's how my day's gone. I can't talk anymore. But I've been a little under the weather lately. And then we will be dropping archives on Friday, so take a look out for that. And then we will be back live for weekly wrap up. If you missed last week's show, we talked about Excalibur wrapping up with Marcus Toe. We talked about Spider-Man No Way Home towards the end of the show. So if you want to get your comic reviews in, check out the beginning of that show. If you haven't seen No Way Home yet, we very clearly announced that when we start talking about it. So we didn't spoil anything leading up to it or talk about it leading up to in any of the conferences. You can definitely go catch that on the Rewind. And thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Take care, you guys. Have a Merry Christmas. Station.
You know,